Welcome into the bleachers. This is, as of right now, the Bleacher Blums podcast, and I know that we have not come to you in a little while, but we've got some news, we've got some updates. But I want to remind you that I am Geoff Blum, 14-year Major League veteran, currently Astros color commentator on their TV broadcasts, and we've been doing this podcast now for 3-4 years. I'm not sure. Tuttle might know, but I've got my good buddy co-host David Tuttle on the other side. He's out there on the left coast while I travel around the country chasing the Astros and talking a lot of baseball. But in the past, we have been giving you podcasts that have covered a lot of baseball. And I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to bring David Tuttle in here, kind of pigeonholed ourselves into a lot of baseball. And I'm not sure if it got a little stagnant, but I think that we're ready to kind of expand on our podcast platform a little bit. So I'm going to bring in my good buddy David Tuttle, have him help me explain this a little bit better because I'm the emotional one and he's the articulate one. My good buddy David Tuttle played plenty of baseball, went to Santa Clara University, played for Team USA, and unfortunately did not get that big break after playing nine and a half seasons in the minor leagues,
years.
right? Yeah.
So ex-professional baseball player as well. Blum, thanks for bringing me in. I think we've been doing this about 3.5 years, our podcast, formerly known as the Bleacher Blums podcast. And I don't know if stagnant's the right word, and I certainly don't know if articulate is the right word for me, but certainly with you being the color commentator for the Astros, I know the podcast got kind of maybe not baseball heavy, but certainly Astros heavy. And you live the Astros, you live in Houston, you talk about the Astros all the time. And we, initially started this podcast, as we always said, like talking to Tuttle or talking to Blum in the parking lot of school drop off. And I think we wanted to get back to our roots and be a little more, thorough in the topics that we discuss. And we still want to talk about baseball, but we talked about fantasy football in here before, maybe some sports. But as the original theme or the original idea of the podcast was to kind of talk about how baseball, maybe our life experiences, kind of gave us the platform to kind of move on and be, fathers of multiples and, how do you raise kids and some of those things. And we also thought that the long form interview might be a way to go. So every time we've had a guest on, we've had kind of an increase in listenership, I guess, if that's a word. Is listenership a word, Blummer? I don't know.
You are correct.
All right. So we've had an increase in listenership, but we've also enjoyed it more. And so I think what just to give the fans some insight, what I think we got to was we were getting on here kind of just to get on here and give us an update about the Astros and baseball. And we want to get back to how we originally started, which is our commonality in, being fathers of multiples and raising kids and going through, sending those kids off to college, and how maybe our experience in sports and baseball more specifically shaped our attitudes and thoughts around that. So is that, I don't know, see, articulate,
No.
long-winded, you can, call it what you will.
That's the idea, though. Get those thoughts out of that skull and let them ride a little bit. And, I think Tuttle and I, we can banter back and forth. We can answer questions, but I think the idea of getting another voice in there and having us kind of guide the conversation a little bit, and like Tuttle said, get back to kind of getting internal with things instead of being so specific about the Astros or so specific about baseball, because the idea is to have college baseball, college basketball, see if we can't get people within the industry of baseball and figure out how they got there, how they survived, and what they did afterwards. Start peeling back some onions on some of these personalities. I have access to players and coaches across all sports, and why not get involved with that a little bit more and expand what we don't know and see what we can find out. Maybe get an astronaut or two on here, get a CrossFit gym owner, see what business is like and why they got into that business. I think there's a lot of avenues that we've talked about personally between all three of us that I think we want to kind of venture out a little bit and see if we can't get some other minds and other voices on this podcast. And if, what do you got?
I was just going to say, no, you hit the nail on the head. I think the last thing to that is everybody starts out playing Little League, right? When you're playing professional baseball, everyone's like, only 1/2 of all the people that started playing Little League make it to college and then beyond that, right? And you just get further up the tip of the spear. But what we've found, knowing these other coaches, knowing astronauts, knowing business leaders, thought leaders, people that are still in health and wellness, is everybody started in Little League. And so it's really, I think, going to be interesting to see what their journey was, because if you're talking to somebody who actually doesn't, play sports for a living, how did that sports, how did soccer or Little League baseball
kind of translate?
High school sports shape their career, their trajectory, or did sports teach them any lessons? And maybe not. Maybe they were, never into that. But I do think kind of getting into, what made you who you are today is, I think, what we originally started talking about, because people look at somebody like yourself who, 14-year major leaguer, myself that played 9 years of professional baseball, and you kind of do have to reinvent yourself. I mean, you've had the good fortune to kind of stay around the game, and obviously a lot of the guests that we've had on here will be related to that. But I do think there's so much more out there to explore, and I think that that's, going to kind of motivate us and hopefully increase not just the listenership, but hopefully bring more understanding and entertainment to the people out there that are already listening, and maybe some new listeners.
Yeah. So we appreciate you hanging out with us, all those original listeners, all of the new listeners. We appreciate the heck out of you. We're not going anywhere. We're just going to kind of update, revamp, and see what we can do and get a little more in-depth and kind of expand those interviews. Because I know in the past when we have gotten good listenership, like Tuttle was talking about, we felt kind of rushed, kind of pressured. But if we can kind of lay back a little bit and take our time to really get in some insight, hopefully that translates to everybody who's listening. But if you have had fun listening to the podcast, know that we will be back maybe in about a week or two with some more podcasts as we start to accrue some of these interviews. But if you miss us, you can go back on any podcast platform, look up Bleacher Blums. The archives are there. You can go to geoffblum.com. You'll have a link there to go to all the podcasts. You can go to YouTube, look up Bleacher Blums. Our good buddy Marco, who's hanging out with us, always has a tendency to chew up some video, put it out there, and keep it kind of fresh. And you can go back and watch previous episodes if you would like to see our beautiful mugs on your computer screen or on your TV screen. So make sure you go to Geoff Blum, and again, that's Geoff with a G, GeoffBlum.com. And sign up for the newsletter. There's an actual newsletter on there that I'm going to go to be a little more aggressive with, and you can get links to the podcast through that. And there'll be some special offers to Ram shirts. There'll be some special offers possibly to a scorecard of mine that I've actually figured out how to put onto a PDF. But there's going to be good things happening. It's going to be interesting. You may get less as far as number of episodes, but you're going to get a lot more content as far as we start to stretch these interviews out and start to get a little more in depth. I think that's pretty much all I've got, Tuttle. Have you got anything to finish this thing off?
No, I don't. That's exactly what I was going to say. So I'm really happy that we're going to be, I think hopefully the fans will understand, we're going to be more energized, more, hopefully more entertaining, but also, uncovering more of the things that you guys are interested in and want to listen to. So we're looking forward to coming back in, like Geoff said, in a couple weeks and, hopefully knocking your socks off, I guess.
Yeah. Because what do we say at the end of every Bleacher Blums podcast? We say, get after it and believe it. And it's one thing to tell everybody else to do it. Now it's our turn to do it. So stay with us. We're going to get after it. And you better damn well believe it. We'll be back. So thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you next time.